Hey everyone, I'm Tina, a 28-year-old woman, and I wanted to open up about a recent chapter in my life that brought some closure to a difficult situation involving my husband and in-laws. This all unfolded a few months ago, and the chaos has only recently settled. I'm still grappling with the emotional aftermath, and I believe sharing my story might offer some relief. Flashback to 2 years ago when I made a significant life decision, marrying my then-boyfriend Jake. We met through mutual friends and spent 3 blissful years together. Jake appeared to be a fun and caring person, showering me with love. He hailed from a wealthy family, complemented by a high-paying job. Our connection deepened over shared interests, especially our love for travel. As we progressed from casual dating to a serious relationship, my friends applauded him as a great guy, genuinely happy for us. The relationship was smooth sailing. Jake's care knew no bounds. He surprised me with thoughtful gifts, even presenting a new laptop on my college graduation day. Despite his generosity, I hesitated about him covering most expenses. Jake, I'm just a college student. I can't afford to reciprocate in the same way. Let's at least split other expenses, I'd insist. Jake, however, dismissed my concerns, emphasizing his desire to spoil his girlfriend. He argued that many of his friends did the same for their partners. Gradually, I accepted his gestures, but I made efforts to reciprocate within my means. Upon securing a well-paying job after college, I was thrilled to finally return the favor. We transitioned to splitting expenses evenly and contemplated moving in together. You can move in with me, Jake suggested. I inherited my house from my grandpa, so you won't have to worry about rent. But let's split other expenses. It wouldn't be fair otherwise. Despite my reservations, Jake reassured me that he wanted to take care of me. However, we agreed to divide other costs more equitably, considering the difference in our incomes. Everything appeared to be going well until I finally had the opportunity to meet Jake's family, who resided in a different state quite far from us. Jake, caught up with work commitments, couldn't join them, so I was left to welcome his parents and sister on my own. Prior to this meeting, Jake warned me about their occasional judgmental nature, offering a vague heads-up without elaborating. He simply advised me to play along and ignore any potentially hurtful comments. Despite my reservations, I approached the situation with optimism. However, any shred of positivity quickly evaporated upon their arrival. When Jake's parents and sister landed, they appeared visibly annoyed, a stark contrast to the warm reception I anticipated. As we gathered for a conversation, it became evident that they held a negative opinion of me. So, you're the woman Jake has been seeing. I didn't expect to find you in this house. Do you even pay rent? Sandra, Jake's mother, questioned with a disapproving tone. No, Sandra, I don't pay rent. Jake mentioned that the house is fully paid for, but we split all the bills evenly, I explained, hoping to address any concerns. Sandra dismissed my explanation, asserting, just because the house is paid for doesn't mean you can mooch off him. This is his house, not yours. Remember that for the rest of your life. The conversation took an uncomfortable turn, especially with Jake's sister, Cassie, who seemed more interested in glaring at me than engaging in dialogue. When I attempted to include her by asking about her life, she responded with irritation, mentioning her marriage to a wealthy billionaire back home. Despite my efforts to bridge the gap, she waved me off, and Jake offered no support, seemingly aligning himself with his family's sentiments. Throughout their stay, Dave and Sandra continued to criticize me. They disapproved of my spending on makeup and skincare, insisting I shouldn't indulge in such luxuries when not contributing enough to the household. Their suspicion that I was relying on Jake's finances intensified, fueled by Jake's occasional unfounded remarks against me. For instance, he casually mentioned, Tina was a struggling student, even when it wasn't entirely true. When we first met, I found myself covering all the expenses, given that Tina had just started a job that didn't quite support her apparent taste for luxury. Confused by Jake's unexpected comments, I reminded him that we split our bills, emphasizing that I lived a simple life before and during our relationship. I clarified that any luxury items I owned were gifts from him, and I even used to scold him for overspending. However, Jake insisted that his status demanded extravagant gifts, and now I see it was more about him boasting to his friends. Their visit left a bitter taste, prompting me to question Jake about the whole ordeal. Unfortunately, he shrugged it off, downplaying the situation. "You're overthinking, Tina. Don't take it to heart. They meant well. What they said was disrespectful. Relax, you're overreacting," he dismissed. Despite my reservations, 6 months later, Jake proposed, and I happily accepted. We planned an engagement party, which we split evenly, balancing my small business on the side. Jake knew about its growth, but never inquired about the income. To me, it was a fulfilling hobby rather than a significant moneymaker. Deciding it was time to treat myself a bit, I opted for a grand engagement party, and Jake supported the idea. We divided the expenses equally, and I even covered the plane tickets for my extended family to attend. However, on the day of the party, criticism resurfaced. "You shouldn't have splurged so much at this party, Tina. You're draining Jake's account before you're even married. At this rate, you'll end up with a backyard wedding. I thought you were financially irresponsible, but it's worse than I thought," they remarked. I firmly declared to Sandra, the party was extravagant, but we both agreed to it. I paid my share, and it was your son's idea to include everyone. Tina insisted a lot, and I couldn't say no. I don't mind spending, but this party cost us a lot. Sandra retorted, accusing me of manipulating Jake into spending money, claiming he just couldn't say no to me. Cassie joined in, asserting that she knew the kind of person I was and that I should have fought better. Frustrated, I excused myself and sought a moment of respite on the venue's lawn, only to find Cassie and her husband Jim laughing at my expense. It felt like my engagement party was unraveling, with Jake oblivious to his family's judgments. Most of his extended family assumed I was jobless, painting me as a dependent fiancé. My mom, perceptive and protective, noticed my distress and approached. Aware of how hard managing finances could be as a single parent, she urged me to reconsider the engagement, pointing out the ongoing mean comments from Jake's family. After the party, I confronted Jake about the situation. He dismissed it as a joke, expressing his love and stating he didn't care about financial matters. However, I reiterated my desire to contribute, especially towards rent, but he brushed off the suggestion. Wedding planning brought more stress, with Jake's parents criticizing my choices and accusing me of bankrupting their son. I defended myself, stating that we were all contributing to the wedding, including my mom. Sandra's response was harsh, accusing me of robbing her son and insinuating that they expected us to empty the bank account for the wedding as well. I calmly addressed Dave's concerns. "I'm not asking for money, Dave. I'm simply letting you know that we can pay for this wedding just fine." On the day of the wedding, Cassie continued her comments on my dress and makeup expenses, despite my clarification that my mom covered those costs. The ceremony proceeded smoothly, but during the reception, Sandra and Dave couldn't resist bringing up my spending habits and accusing me of bleeding their son dry. Despite their negativity, I chose to keep quiet to prevent them from spoiling my special day. After a few months, Jake received a significant promotion at work, and he wanted to celebrate with a big family dinner. I was thrilled for him and decided to make the dinner extra special by offering to cover all the expenses. "I want this dinner to be extra special, Jake. I'm extremely proud of you, and I want to give you a treat. I've decided to pay for the dinner party completely," I enthusiastically told him. Jake was delighted by my gesture, and I explained that my business was doing well. I had a salary from my job, and I recently gained access to a trust fund from my paternal grandfather. I planned the entire event, ensuring everything was perfect for the celebration. However, when his family arrived, they were visibly displeased with the preparations. Despite positive feedback from others, it soon became evident that his family had issues with the celebration. During the speeches, Sandra stood up and loudly declared, "I thank everyone for gathering here to celebrate my son. He's incredibly hardworking and generous. He deserves this promotion completely." However, his luck just ended there. It's sad that out of all people, he was shackled down by a gold digger. I wish he had the foresight to see what his wife is. Then he wouldn't have to work so hard to fund her luxury life. It's now clear to everyone that his wife is a big spender. From the engagement party to this dinner, she pretty much emptied his accounts. Feeling the weight of the accusations and insults, I took a deep breath and responded, I feel sorry for my poor boy. I'm glad he had Tina sign the prenup before the wedding. At least some of his assets would be saved. Sandra continued, complaining about her wife's spending habits, expressing relief that she earned enough to keep a trophy wife. Jake joined in, agreeing that he couldn't spend money on himself because there was none left. He remarked that marrying Tina was a mistake, contrasting her with Jim's hypothetical reaction to a gold digger. In shock and frustration, I couldn't hold back any longer. Do you guys think I am a gold digger? I asked incredulously, to which Jake added, your lifestyle is quite damaging to my bank account. Feeling hurt and misunderstood, I decided to address the accusations head on. Since I am such a gold digger to you, let me just show you my bank balance. I guess that will clear things up for you, I declared, revealing my financial standing to everyone. The response was disbelief and accusations. Did you steal my son's money? Sandra accused, while Jake questioned, she must have stolen from you. Frustrated, I clarified, I don't need to steal money from your son. This is all my blood and sweat. Also, I recently got access to my trust fund left to me by my grandfather. I was going to get a bigger house with it and surprise Jake, but I guess that won't be happening anymore. Despite my attempt to set the record straight, Jake suggested, we can still buy the house. It'll be a lovely gift. However, I stood firm, expressing my refusal to accept a gift after enduring insults from his family. This is not happening. Your family has been insulting me for too long, and you never once stood up for me. Instead, you made up these lies about how I'm using your money, I asserted, feeling the need to address the long-standing issue. Jake attempted to downplay the situation, claiming I was overreacting. However, I stood my ground, stating, no, I am not overreacting. All the people here know what your family has been calling me. They were here when you let them insult me during our engagement party. Feeling the weight of years of disrespect and humiliation, I finally decided I could no longer tolerate the toxic environment. I sternly told Jake, I want a divorce. He attempted to plead and explain, but my mom intervened, advising him to keep quiet. You never defended my girl all these years. It's time she ends this toxic relationship for good, she asserted. We left the party, leaving the shocked attendees whispering amongst themselves. Despite exposing Jake to his extended family, friends, and colleagues, I didn't care anymore. I was done with him. Mom and I went straight to the house, collected my belongings, and Jake kept blowing up my phone in an attempt to talk. I muted it and went to stay with my mother. The next day, I contacted my cousin, a lawyer, to draw up divorce papers. With a prenuptial agreement in place, the split would be straightforward, and I wouldn't have to give him any money, despite having more than him now. Jake and his family showed up at my mom's place demanding to talk. Mom firmly told them to leave, and Jake kept trying to contact me, sending a range of messages from sobbing apologies to threatening harm. I stored all the recordings, preparing for a potential restraining order. Despite the emotional turmoil, I found strength in my mother's support. Jake even tried to show up at my office, but security was informed beforehand, promptly removing him. It was then I decided to quit my job. Though well-paying, my booming business meant I no longer needed it, and I wasn't interested in becoming a millionaire. I simply desired a peaceful life with dignity, so I submitted my notice that day and decided to move forward. A week after serving Jake with divorce papers at his workplace, he showed up at my former workplace, only to discover I had already quit. Colleagues informed me about his persistent attempts to send flowers and gifts to my mother's address. We returned the parcels, but the harassment continued, prompting me to contemplate relocation. With my mother's support, I found a perfect house in the next state, offering me a haven away from my ex. Currently awaiting finalization of paperwork, the judge granted a relatively smooth divorce due to the solid prenuptial agreement. During the 6 months of separation, I used the time to gather myself. Once the divorce was finalized, I promptly moved to my new home, changing my number to escape the relentless spam from Jake and his family. I heard Jake's life was in turmoil, blaming his parents for the marriage breakdown. Professionally, he faced a significant setback, with colleagues avoiding him and seniors displeased with the negative publicity in their close-knit community. His parents resorted to spreading rumors about infidelity, but fortunately, these falsehoods failed to gain traction. On the contrary, my life took a positive turn. Focused on enhancing my business and relishing newfound freedom, I started going out and even ventured into the dating scene. Jake's insecurities made me cautious about committing too quickly, but I remain hopeful that with time, I will heal and find someone who truly cherishes me. While Jake's actions caused me pain, the strength gained from overcoming those challenges has propelled me into a brighter future, full of possibilities and self-discovery.